I did work for him for a year, you know, and they inducted Vern into their Hall of Fame, and you have to realize what's behind Vince's thinking. It was Chicago. That's where Vern was. You know, he was the biggest star that came off that network TV from 1950. You know, Lou Thez was the world champion, but he wouldn't be on there every week like Vern was, and Vern became the U.S. champion, and he was kind of the featured guy. And in 1950, Vern was the first athlete besides Babe Ruth to make over 100 grand, and he was getting all the network shows. He was doing Howdy Doody, uh, uh, the Jack Parr Show, Jack LaLanne, uh, you name it, he was on them. But he was the guy that really got accepted uh, by the public, and he because he could wrestle, and it was his background, and he had a lot of charisma, and he realized how important interviews were to establish the talent, and that's why the interviews started back then, and that was he convinced them to do that. But he had an unbelievable feel for the ring, what people wanted, and what TV wanted, and how he could put that together better than anybody.
Was it hard to convince him to do the Hall of Fame or even convince you to be a part of it? Because it seems like there might have been a little animosity. Maybe not at that
Well,
point, but obviously there was in the
Vern
past.
at that point, he was in the stages of Alzheimer's, and they asked, and I said when they called me, I said, well, yeah, yeah, we'll consider it, uh, and I told Vern, yeah, and by then yeah, 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 yeah. But I said, somebody said, I'm gonna have to talk for him. I said because he'll get lost up there, and I don't want him looking. So I did the lead into it, and then he did a good job while he was up there. He,
Definitely.
he turned me when if you ever see it, he turned me. He said, "Why am I here? Who brought me here? What am I doing up here?" I said, "You're in the Hall of Fame. You're being inducted into the Hall of Fame by Vince McMahon." I never did like that guy. Got a good laugh out of the crowd there, but he went in after McMahon had a match with Shawn Michaels that night. We both went in and congratulated him, and then I sat down with Vince. I said, I really love the business. I'd like to get back into it. So then they hired me, and I worked. They had me. It was really difficult for me because they wanted. I'd go to. I was working in their office, and you know, we worked with writers, and it was really hard for myself and Dusty Rhodes for us to be quiet. You had to kind of go along with the they wanted, and we tried to turn it a little bit.
Yep.
So one night I'm sitting with McMahon watching Shawn Michaels match, and he said, "Why can't my guys do that?" I said, "I guess they're not getting trained properly." He said, "Well, think you can do it?" I said, "Yeah, I know I can do it." So then they sent me. I'd do 2 days in Louisville, 2 days in Atlanta, or 2.5 days, and then I'd come back Friday night. So I'd be gone Monday, get home late Friday night, and be back Monday. And then they wanted me to write the interviews for the guys, and I was having a real problem with that. I said, I tried to explain to them. I said, the way we've all come through the thing, everybody has who they want to be inside of them, but they're afraid when they get in front of people to let that out. And I said, what I like to do is I like to give a guy I like to get his background, talk to him, give him a beginning and an ending, and let him fill in the middle, and let him be who he is. Tell your story. In fact, this young kid I have down with WWE, they did interviews yesterday. He called me up. He said, "Hi, G." He said, "Oh, unbelievable." But he called me the night before, and I told him, "You don't have to be nervous. In the ring, you guys will eat him up." He said, "Well, I'm nervous about my interview." And I said, "Well, let me hear it." And he did it. I said, "No, no, 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 no." I said, "Give me a little background about yourself." Well, he grew up in the north side of Chicago. His mother was an alcoholic. His dad had to work 20, 22 hours a day. So Tyler, he was there with his brother and sister. He'd have to take care of them because his mother was out of it all the time. And he got into, he was kind of a tough kid and a little bigger kid in school and got in a lot of trouble. So the gang started coming up to him, and he got into a gang at age 15. And he always wanted to be a professional wrestler. And he went out for the wrestling team that year when he was 15, and he was winning everything, and he wanted to concentrate on that. And the gangs were giving him a really hard time, and they were all over him. And they even shot up his house one night. And that's when his parents and him he said, I got to get out of here. So by the time he was 16, he finally got out of there and came up to Minneapolis. And I said, tell that story in your interview. Don't be somebody you're not. Tell that story. That's a, and you wanted to be a professional wrestler. You found me, asked me to be your mentor. You don't have to say anything about me, but say, you found a coach that, took you under his wing and guided me, and I'm here and I'm prepared to eat up everybody in the WWE. I think I have the credentials to do it. I'm big, I'm strong. I've got a wrestling background, and he'll be all right for him. But again, and they were all over my ass. Write the interview. CM Punk. He's all pissed off. I said, what are you so pissed off about? Well, they're not calling me up there. And, I thought he was a little slight, like myself. And I said, well, you have to be really good in the ring, which you are. And now these interviews don't make any sense to me. Well, what do you think I should do? I said, well, how do you feel? Well, I'm pissed off. I said, give me an interview. Rip up the WWE, rip up Vince, whatever you want to do. However you feel, let it out. And he did. Everybody was, what? Did you hear what he said? Pretty soon he's up there. But to me, what they do it now, they try to make a character, a personality, rather than letting their own real personality come out. And that was really hard for me. I think they're getting more back to that now, because I think just from listening to them yesterday, after they got home, they called me last. They said, God, they loved our interviews. So, good. I said, didn't that feel better? When you were trying to be somebody else, I could tell you didn't feel comfortable doing it. It wasn't you. Be yourself. So that's what's really hard to get out of a lot of people. And some people fail because they can't let that inner self out.
Definitely, man. I can think of a bunch of guys through their careers that are like maybe different backstage where they couldn't get it out on air. But it's funny you mentioned Punk. Obviously, he got a little bit of trouble recently, maybe being too honest.
Too honest, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, that happens to some of us.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.